We went on Fred or?
Yeah, I'll go well. Michelle's coming too.
You seen Michelle?
Yeah, Michelle's coming.
Oh,
Not
okay.
Michelle. Not Michelle.
Just, you're Michelle.
Not your Michelle, not Michelle. Y'all all right?
Good, you
Everybody doing good? 60-mile-an-hour winds this evening. It's not a good idea. Got a warning on the phone.
We saw you pull up.
Yeah, I saw the old bus ride up the road there. I thought they gave you dropping you off.
Oh, hey, look, don't try to play it off. I know whose crew that is, so don't just go ahead and stop it right now.
It was a short.
Oh, it was for me.
Come on in, Fred.
Here comes Michelle.
I don't know.
What's going on for you?
Our first presenter, didn't show, so our second presenter, we went ahead and put them on and they finished up, so. As quick as Michelle gets here, we'll.
She's walking in. All right.
I'm good, are you?
Good.
Come on, sit down here before you get yourself in trouble.
Well, I don't know how close I want to sit to you.
I'm not contagious that I know of.
You and John's already got, some kind of argument, maybe we'll be on the back row.
I'm too tired to argue today. It's a Monday. Too banged up to argue.
We were just talking about the old Brown Creek School. What was going on with it or anything?
Not much. We've gotten kids out of there. You know, we have afternoons. There's no sports teams that I know of out there right now. I think there's some kids that go out there and do some softball lessons with a couple of guys, but there's nobody
Inside or out on the field?
inside on the left side.
Yeah.
So it's open for use if somebody got a good use for it. I know we had a group come up there, well, social services came up there and looked at it about maybe doing a halfway house or something for maybe females that had been, domestic violence and abuse type situations. She had looked at trying to get a grant for that. That's the last I've heard of anybody wanting to do anything with it. It's useless to us now. We were able to get kids in the annex, and that saved us having to send softball and wrestling up there. So it's just not the best road at times either. We've had 3 or 4 schools. We've had 3 or 4 kids in Rexton the last 6 years. I know of going to that facility. Hello, Michelle. Yeah, that's 2 and 2 weeks. Bradley, that's 2 weekends in a row, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah. Somebody.
this 79-year-old woman who just had cataract surgery and didn't see a trailer backing out of her. Had to cut her out.
Phew.
Where was that at? Remember Jackie Golf Green used to be?
Yeah.
Right before you get there.
Before you get off the road church.
Right there in the old road church.
Yeah. I talked to a guy today, that Richard Toller picked up the car. He said he'd never seen that. Took 2 hours to cut her out.
Yeah.
2 hours.
Was she alive? She survived?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The trailer backing out delivered hay to us. So I checked on her right before I came up here. She was alive and has to have surgery in the morning.
They blew her out.
2 broken.
Shoot. It's not good though, that age. Yeah, whatever.
Right. Budget presentations, meeting back to order. And, Mr. Wilmore,
Yes, sir.
would you like to go ahead and present?
Sure, we've got a copy of the governor's budget, which we created our budget off of. We still got the House and the Senate, of course, came out a week ago with their renditions of it. You guys want a copy of, because we still got things we got to fill in, we're still waiting on. Would you guys like a copy of this budget that we gave to the school board? Do you want it tonight? I'll be glad to give it to you if you want.
I don't care to have it.
Okay, and then above, above LRE, we've got several things. I think you all had a couple meetings with some of our board members, but these are some things that, right now we're looking at, we are gonna need definitely, and I think it's pretty much in that order. I think at least for you. We've got several roofs that we've got issues with. One of them is the flat roof on the left side of the high school, which would be the Food City side. That definitely is priority number one. The gymnasium at the high school, of course, I know the county uses it quite a bit for recreation and other things. It needs a new roof. And the flat section of Freeze also needs a roof. And then we've also got one other, what was one that he bought us today? Was that the roof on y'all's building? The nurses building needs a new roof also. We're gonna try to put a metal roof on it because it's a smaller roof. So those are the ones, if you look at the top part, that takes up the biggest part of this. The middle school gym floor had water damage this past year. We've got to go in and have that taken all the way down. We're gonna have to come in and take it to the bone, repaint it, completely redo it. And Freeze gym floor, I got a quote on it, which is I've got a couple of different ones. The best one that's coming in is $125,000 to completely replace the Freeze gym floor, and it is in bad shape. Mike, you were nice enough to come out there one day and look at it. And you see, I don't know when they did the renovation to Freeze School why they didn't put a new gym floor in, but they didn't. And that floor has gotten to the point where it's about half dangerous. There's nails in it hanging out. There's cracks in it, holes in it. We are constantly replacing boards, and it's just to a point where we need a new gym floor out there. Everything else, we're right now at 375. We've got some other things we're still looking at. We're still waiting on, like I said, on these other budgets, but these are things that are definitely priority lists that we need to have done, especially the roofs.
Did you upgrade the kitchen?
Yes, sir. I think, Michelle, what were they at on they were the high school kitchen?
She's ordered it.
She's ordered all
there's
those
just a
things.
delay lag with the supply chain issues and things, but it's ordered, and I think she was saying that it should be here sometime in March. But we ordered that back in July when our first gave us the funds.
There's that. What was it? The ovens and two other
The
things.
serving line on the left side and all kinds of stuff is coming.
All of that stuff is back ordered. So we're still waiting. But when we get it and we put it in, I'll let you come look at it.
She was saying that the problem with some of the ovens is the little chips that they put in on like your vehicles. They don't have people making those little computer chips. It's not really about the metal or anything.
Nothing. We haven't forgot. We're just waiting. It's on that ship. It's on that barge in California.
So far they're saying March, but we'll see when March rolls around.
So what changes are you anticipating something major with your adjustments you're gonna have to make there?
Well, right now our revenue is behind what we're seeing with as far as what the state's going to give us. We're also sitting in limbo, waiting to see also with the snafu that happened with the percentage being off by the Department of Education. We got another confirmation today that the governor and the House of Senate is going to fix that. That was going to be a 94,000 shortfall this year and about 330 for next year. But they're saying they've got enough money in revenue and rainy day fund to go ahead and cover that for this year and for next year. But we're still going to sit money back. We talked about it this morning just in case we don't get what we were told we were going to get. So I don't know. If we don't, if that tax cut does happen and we get shorted, then we're going to really have to be scrounging for some things and look at doing some different things. We've still got some money in ESSER for positions. We've still got some positions in there for one more year. We went ahead and moved those from ESSER 2 to ESSER 3 to buy us another year. At the end of next year, that's when it's going to get a little tighter on us.
So last year, we kind of worked out that above RLE funding would be 373, which the request this year looks to be 375. It looks to be pretty close. And then the additional was 784,000 to CIP. In this case, it would be available in FY26. So whether you do the gyms or whatever, that's up for y'all. But I mean, what we worked out last year is for last year, this year, next year, was about 373 above RLE.
Sure.
So what you use it for is.
Well, we just, just as a courtesy, we wanted you to understand where it's going, because these facilities you all use too. I mean, we share the facilities. All of our schools are county facilities. Recreation department uses almost every school. So we want to be transparent, is our favorite word that everybody likes to use in politics these days. We want to be transparent so you know where this is going to go. And we're,
Sorry, go ahead.
I think that, as far as you're talking about the CIP, I think it's a great idea. I think the board's very supportive of that too. Just to let you all know, we got a SIPS memo, and you might want to think about this with your date where you set this for 26, but we got a SIPS memo Friday when you came in with it, Michelle. There is a competitive grant for school construction / renovation. So we are going to put in a competitive bid grant for Independence Elementary to put a wing on. Because we need a wing on Independence Elementary. And what we're thinking is a library with 2 classrooms on the bottom, go upstairs and put 4 to 6 classrooms, depending on the space. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply for this grant. We've got money in there. We will see what they come up with, how long, if we get the grant, how many years you have to spend the grant, or could it be rolled over into the CIP? If we don't spend it in a year, you got another year to put on there. I haven't gotten an estimate yet, but I'll be glad to share it with you guys. And I'm guessing 2.5, maybe even 3 million to do all that is my guess. I know that I talked to Skanska, who does all our project managing today, and they said that they just got a bid in for a school in West Virginia, which usually schools in West Virginia are a little cheaper per square foot, $500 a square foot to build a new school, new elementary school. So it's outrageous right now. So as soon as I get that, I can even come one night to a board meeting and present it to you guys if we get anything on this grant, so you can kind of see what we're dealing with down the road. But I think the board's awful supportive of trying to do something to free up more space in Independence Elementary. If we're going to do a big project, I think that's the most needed place right now.
One of the things that Chris and Randy brought up in our discussion was, the agreement between the school, and the county on the maintenance of our vehicles at your facility.
Yes.
Do you know if the service agreement exists?
I don't know, Colonel. I'll have to check on that. I think Mr. Weatherman may know, because is there any kind of agreement we've ever had, or I think it's just been more of a handshake agreement and kind of a number, but I do know for next year, and I'm glad you mentioned that, we've talked about it today, number-wise, we need to go get that thing at $50 an hour. It's just too low.
Well, the money, our budget has a line, the sheriff's department has a line for maintenance to pay for you all to do the maintenance of stuff. And I'm just wondering if we need a formal agreement so that we all understand what's expected of each side. So when we can do better budgeting, you pay them what you need to pay them. But it seems to me that some sort of an MOU or MOA or a status of forces agreement or whatever you want to call it would be helpful for the future. Going forward.
We would need the county on the town in our conversation too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we need to have all 3 of us in the same room to come up with the agreement, because they're servicing like 17, 18 vehicles right now.
Right.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. We're servicing 17 or 18 vehicles for them. So we probably need to all be in the same room and having the same conversation. But I'll be glad to let them know. Just looking at it right now to keep what we've got out there, and we have, I don't know if we're going to have any retirements or not, but we need to fill them if we do. But we're probably going to really need to go to $50 an hour to be able to maintain, especially all the vehicles we've got. And we may need to look at maybe adding some more help out there, because it's just really, everybody's adding vehicles. All of us are adding vehicles. We've gotten some newer buses, which has helped, but you still got to do same maintenance on them and checks. So they all have to have inspections, and that keeps up the whole summer busy. So we may need to look at going together and maybe hiring somebody as an extra person if we have to, or at least a part-time.
Well, it seemed to me that getting an agreement in place would be kind of the first step, so we make sure what the tasks are. Lisa, do you need Mr. Chair, do you need a motion or anything for that as an action item for the staff to work with the school board to come up with that? Is that sure you want one, or sure you?
Well, no, I can't remember Any kind of percentage?
I looked it up, I'm dating myself, but I remember that time period. I looked it up, I've been through the county minutes, I did not find anything, other than just reports from, Dr. Harvey at that time, just updating on what was going on. Also happened to speak with a former board supervisor member who was on the board at that time, and a gentleman's agreement.
I think prior to that, vehicles were serviced at random garages around the county by the sheriff's office.
It's something that, I mean, I don't know what y'all think about it, seems to me it'd be helpful to do that.
It definitely get the town involved. I don't know if the town of Freeze has anything. Mike, does town of Freeze have any vehicles go out there, do you know?
I've never seen them up there.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of. Somebody down there.
I seen Sandra text, ask her if she had anything in her documentation there. I've never heard of it.
What about fire and rescue? Do they do any fire and rescue there?
I don't think so. No, I think it's just mainly the sheriff's vehicles and some of the county vehicles, all the town vehicles, our vehicles and our buses. So it's a lot of vehicles.
If we're gonna enter into this effort, would there be some utility in bringing fire and rescue in? Is just an option for discussion, or that's, I mean, they don't, most of them, they don't work for us, and so it'd be something that might be able to help them with. I don't know.
I think it's a discussion to pursue, whether or not it comes to fruition.
Yeah, no,
I have no
no.
idea, but
Yep.
it could be discussed,
And
especially if we're gonna redo the entire agreement.
I'm thinking probably there need to be some discussion between the association prior to that,
Absolutely.
to see, because someone may be,
That's
they may
what I was-
have arrangements in
Right, that,
their localities to.
they do, I think, but that has been discussed, centralized, work on vehicles has already been discussed by the commission, so, to the best of my memory.
I'll make a motion that we ask the county to work with the school board and town of Independence and any other interested party in developing a memorandum of agreement for the maintenance of county or county affiliated vehicles.
Have a motion for the board.
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I just got a question. Is there, when the county sends vehicles out to the bus garage and it's change the alternator, does the school charge the county
Sheriff's
like
office.
a chart of how many, or sheriff's office, a chart of this, it should take 3 hours to change this, and it's,
I think that's pretty correct, yes. And they're usually very reasonable about how they charge. I think they're pretty fair about it.
well, I don't know, what is the figure right now?
It's at $40 an hour, I believe. I believe it's very.
This
That's the
means-
labor charge, you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we don't put on anything for parts. I mean, it's not,
Right.
we're not like these, it's the companies that drop 20%. You're getting it exactly what the part costs.
That, you can't go anywhere.
No,
And get something
no,
done for $50 an hour.
no.
I mean, that's,
Not even the kids down here that do it for the class even charge that.
Small engine charges $65.
gosh, so the point is, when we go through this, we need to update pricing.
And I may be a little bit biased in it, that I have a family that works up there, but we'll go prior to his coming up there since the began using the school. I mean, it's always been top notch.
Yeah.
They were.
They're great. Yeah, they are excellent. I agree.
We're very fortunate. We have some good mechanics and stuff.
But, like we talking about, Mike, they're a little short-handed. We probably need somebody else up there. We probably need to give them some more help. Especially we're going to continue to add vehicles between the three of us.
All right, any further discussion on that? All right. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor, motion before the board? Signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Chair also aye.
Lisa, if you Mr. Harvey, Dr. Harvey, not too bad. If you didn't vote Mr. Hodges, then you would have really been dating yourself.
Not quite.
So,
Any from the presentation?
That's it. Appreciate your time.
Anything
Anything else?
We saw the bus pull back up, so you're
I
right.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. I'll get on it quickly. Anybody does my job needs to be done.
Back on the bus garage, I think that was built, the school built the bus garage.
Yeah.
But I think the county helped put some funds in it. And back, I guess, when they set the price, back then, $40 an hour might have been all right. But as things change, you know, you go to Jeff Johnson, it's $100 an hour.
That's right.
But I think that's what happened, and I guess time just goes on, you know. We got a list of the vehicles. I couldn't believe that we worked on 17 vehicles for the town.
But that's what, I mean, I don't even know if all the groups need to be sitting in the room to pull this off. It's just the document that the school board needs to come up with and say, this is our price moving forward. And Chris and Randy brought that up when we were talking to them, and it was like, we got to get these folks paid some more money. And that's not a discussion that we need to be having. I don't think we need to be talking salary. We need to talk about fee-based.
I think that's what they're going with is to be.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about. But I mean, I think you check around, even if, you know, what it would cost this county to send a truck to Bob Ham's over in Sparta or whatever, it's gonna be way more than $50 an hour. I know Lynn over there is over $100 an hour, so
Jeff Johnson's got $100 an hour, I believe.
don't stretch it all the way out.
It's pretty close. It's pretty close. It's pretty close. Maybe 98. Keeps it there, right? I don't know, but it's something we need to continue to work towards. But it's a good thing. I mean, really, those guys do a great job, but we all use it. And it's something we need to continue in the future.
I guess one, maybe, if, talk to Mr. Warrior when he gets here about this issue, but we probably need some sort of a time frame associated with, you know, how long, 60 days, you know, to get it on the books. It'd be great if we could get it done before the end of budget season, so we could use that agreement to drive our budget. So we have the updated numbers for our budget going forward.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, and so but I don't want to say a date. I don't want to put a date there until you have a chance to talk with him and let him talk with Mr. Wilmore and see what we can work out.
I haven't met the new town manager yet, but I'll try to head that way if she's around, speak to her about it.
Cool.
Try to get her on the same page with us.
Thanks for coming up ahead.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Glad to.
Did you wear your Fitbit so you can get all those steps in?
Well, it's,
Start with the
I
sprinkle.
had a little hip procedure Friday, so no, I haven't been walking as much as normal, so it's getting old.
Thank you.
I gotta get out of here before these two show up here. Heckle and Jekyll.
We'll take about a 5-minute recess and reconvene for our next presentation.
4:05.
At 4:05.
You get 10 minutes.
Call back to order our budget presentation workshop for today. Next presenter will be Mr. Keith Witham, Director of the Grayson County Parks and Countywide Recreation. Good day.
Thank you. Parks budget, it's, nothing too out of line with what it was there last year. Some of the programs, went up in programs, some of our programs we're talking about going is camps during the summer, whether it's kayak camps, basketball, all youth sports camps.
Do we have a copy of that?
No.
We don't.
Okay, so you all are super.
So be detailed, please.
So for, what we count what we went up on?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. So our program supplies last year was budgeted at $4,000. We asked for an increase of $4,000 in that. Simply because our programs that we put on, such as our Halloween event, Daddy Daughter Dance, 4th of July, or Easter event, run us roughly around $800 to $1,200 per event to run, strictly for just supplies and for manpower and things of that nature. So that's one thing that we went up on for our program supplies.
8,000 is what you're at.
Yes, sir. Mhm. Just to include some, we were incorporating more things. We're doing something outside of the scope of youth sports. We're doing different activities for different people in the county. So all of our program supplies, that's our biggest hit that we had right there as far as that was, for that right there.
Mr. Chair, can I ask? Did the pool get fixed? I know we allocated some money last year to get the pool
The
fixed.
filter system they're repairing right now, the plastic replacement and the interior of the pool is gonna be a spot. It's gonna be fine. And we're hoping that we've saved enough in some of our other capital improvements where we can redo the bathroom floors this year instead of having to wait until next year.
Sure. So the decrease that we'll have will be in pool supplies and consumables. Budget last year was $16,575. We've asked for a decrease in that just simply because we don't need to buy chairs, umbrellas, tables, and picnic tables every year. That was I'm assuming a one-time increase for that, as far as just to get the pool up to where it's very serviceable, where it's nice looking and things like that. We don't anticipate us having to spend anywhere near that number on the pool every single year, where we can have to reorder 200 chairs every single year. The ones we get should last us 3 to 5 years if we get the nice chairs that we anticipate on getting.
Have you ordered them or?
We have not ordered those yet. Those are, that's on our to-do list as far as March goes, is to go ahead and order all the chairs. We don't want to order them too soon, have them placed outside and be ruined with the weather. So we're waiting closer to time to order those.
Is there concern about supply chain issues? Everything else seems to take longer than, so is there a harm in?
Not with that. The 2 places we looked at online had over thousands and thousands in stock. So
Okay.
we don't, hopefully, knock on wood, that doesn't happen.
Keith, if I could ask a question since we don't have it in front of us, is there some portion of the budget, how much of the budget is for use outside of the recreation park? So in other parts of the county?
Well, one, going up on program part-time salaries is a lot of our, like an open gym at Grayson Island. We're averaging somewhere around 50 people 2 nights a week. So we're gonna have to get got a young lady up there that's doing a great job, but she's gonna need some help. So, and probably expand on it, maybe another night, maybe 2 nights. We're gonna run a survey up there and just see what other days they'd like to do, what they like to do during the summer, and so on. Which has been a great success for us, because the weight room up there, there's a lot of people using it. Some parents are dropping their kids off in the gym and they're doing the indoor walking, indoor weight room, whatever. So it's been a pretty good success. The kayaks, we budgeted on
$5,000. Want to keep the equipment line the same as it is. Instead of budgeting for new nets for batting cages, we budgeted for kayaks to be purchased through Power X up here. If we ask for that line item, I think we're going to spend about $5,000 on kayaks. So we have those for our own use, for our own kayak classes during the summer, as opposed to having to rent to find other people to use theirs and bring theirs. Just have our own that we service and that we.
How many is that gonna get you?
Hopefully that should get us roughly around eight kayaks. So 8 good kayaks that are going to be long lasting and be good. And enough for us to run out during the summertime as well, as we don't have classes.
And we have had a donation of a trailer that we can weld up some racks and not have to haul around and pick up.
So that number, $5,000 for 8 kayaks, is that based on a quote you've gotten from?
Yeah, he said he was going to sell us to him at whole cost. And roughly, if you look at, we could go lower end. I think lower end was around $400 a kayak. So that will be, it was us to get 16 at that cost. But if we go to the upper scale, which are going to last longer, they're about $600 to $800 per kayak. So that's where we get to that number right there.
Is that part of your countywide efforts where you're
Yes, it
doing
is.
things outside of independence, I guess would be?
Mhm.
And there's some things there. I mean, Boy Scouts isn't as strong as what it used to be. I think it would do some more that type of stuff, whether it's overnight camp trips, overnight floats, and so on like that.
Out of curiosity, where would you put in and where would you pull out?
So
That's figuring it out. I mean, we're planning on having a kayak race, and we've really got to look, because I mean, probably don't want to, unless we're doing bigger kayakers, we don't want to go through the Molly Osborne shows. So smooth stretches probably, I mean, just depends on the length. I mean, Blue River Campground to Gaylox Bridge, kind of 6-hour float there, but smooth water. It's just kind of finding the distance we want to go and the smoothness.
So there's five points of entry in Grayson County. You can go out of the boat ramps. The lowest class is from Riverside to, not Delta Beach, but it's Old Town right there. That's probably the easiest and most beginner class level you can have for your kayaks right there. So that would probably be our most used trail right there, would be from Riverside to the Old Town District right there.
And a lot of our classes will just be right there in one section.
Can I ask a question? So, if those that you just mentioned where we can put in and take out,
Mhm.
do we have that in a brochure at the tourism office, like we do the gravel bicycle trail?
You can, or the DW, or Department of Inland and Game and Fisheries has that included on their website, where the boat landings or public boat landings are in Grayson County, what the levels of the currents are, if they have any currents or things like that. That's on DW's website. So
Do you know if we have anything like that in a brochure?
I do not know about that. We can check on that and see.
Happy Acts has a kind of a cartoon version that shows all the landings and put-ins and takeouts in the county. I don't know that the county has an official publication with it, since they're not county assets, but it's not a bad thing to have somewhere, for sure.
I see something with Tracy had forwarded us.
For kayaking, for the boat, she had sent something.
That was with partner, Game and Lemon Fishers or whatever they're going by now.
And she's working on a kiosk deal for, being able, folks to have hot spots at the different takeouts and stuff like that too. I'm just wondering on this kayak deal, if, as an alternative to owning them, is maybe partner with, a guy like Tim Dixon or even Steve over here to, provide the service versus owning the equipment, just from a maintenance and maintaining standpoint, if that would be from a programmatic standpoint.
Yeah.
Is that considered, or is that?
Well, kind of thinking, if we had our kayaks, we could do what we wanted, when we wanted.
Right.
Or if we had to call and rent them and, hey, we don't have the 3, we've got 6 people signed up.
Right.
It's just kind of more in the lines of when we were.
Y'all have anything like for training or safety, classes or anything?
Last year, I think Josh is teamed with New River Wildlife. We've actually met with them, and they said that they want to do that again, so. On that, we're trying to be more in line with what the location they got set up already, because they've been doing it.
Mind if I add a little something? Since everybody needs mine. One change that you're gonna see to the recreation department budget this year will be a sub-department underneath their umbrella. As you may remember, we had partnered with the Matthews Living History Farm in the past. We're the fiscal agent for that facility. There are two salaries that come out of that, a full-time and part-time. The funding for those salaries comes from the farm board. Previously that money has been filtered through the extension office budget. They have at the extension office, that partnership is no longer, they work together fine, but they're just not holding hands anymore. So they asked last year, hey, could you move it? And it really falls in line with the recreation park being a museum. They kind of go hand in hand. So I am going to create a sub-department underneath the rec department that will have those salaries included in there. So that will sort of artificially inflate the recreation department's budget, but it is in there this year. It's just kind of hidden, but I'm going to pull that out so that they're absolutely separate. I wanted to bring that out so that you're not surprised.
So it'll look like it's bigger, but the funds, it's one of those,
Pass-through dollars.
we got a revenue source and this is showing the expense.
Exactly. There is a little bit, the partnership is still a little bit, fringes are covered by the county, and that's just a partnership by the county and the farm board. But the bulk of it is coming directly. It's just pass-through dollars. I did want to point that out on their behalf.
Okay, one line item changed quite a bit. Concessions, as far as our products and concession salaries, it was 0 last year, and I think it was a pretty humble thought that of getting volunteers to do your concessions. But I think there's a lot of issues with that, which we're gonna do. This will be concessions primarily at the pool. We've leased out or came to an agreement with a company here in town that's been doing our concessions, and we just make a profit from that. But as far as the pool, we're looking at $12,000 for part-time salaries and supplies.
For the concession supplies.
8,000 for supplies, which that should be all revenue coming back in.
On that, what's that contract worth for the concession?
What's it, 70-30 split, so we get 30% of it.
No, it has to do with, are we under the threshold for competing that contract? Because of the level of revenue that's going to be generated or the cost associated with it? Or are we able to do, because it's not a large item, that we're able to do single source? Do we know?
I'll discuss that with them
Okay,
to make sure that we're in compliance.
right. Just want to make sure any contracting you're talking about doing with paddle yaks is probably under the threshold, but the concessions may not be.
You're like, as it relates to procurement act type.
Yeah. That's okay. Well, I want to make sure we're not sideways with that.
So let me, if I may, on the concessions at the park, you said you'll make, or not the park, but at the pool, you're gonna make profit off that, or, so will that be self-contained? Is that, I mean, you're not really making a profit, you're just covering the service
Yeah, I mean, we should make a little
a
profit.
little bit. Now, having said that, I know last year was a big issue. When Josh was here, people were told they couldn't bring in peanut butter sandwiches or whatever it was. It turned into be a big deal. People able to bring their own snacks in,
I think so, yeah.
that hadn't changed, so I think we got that corrected last year.
Yeah, but concessions will have it available if they want.
Yeah, because typically it's a service, but if you can make a profit, that's excellent.
Go ahead on the
Something that you probably won't see a difference in is we left it in the advertising line item. It'll be for the recreation program software, the countywide software, which allows us to do rentals, registrations, pretty much anything membership dues, whatever we want to do on that. That is, I've got the lowest bid that we can have for our size county is I think she has it $4,500 per year. And that's, everything on that is electronic based. We do our registration through that. It's got credit card payment through that. So people don't have to come to the office, mail a check in, do cash. They'll come, you can do it electronically that way. They can do it at 3 o'clock in the morning if they want to do it at 3 o'clock in the morning. They don't have to wait till business hours to sign their kids up or sign up for a trip or do anything of that nature. But the lowest bid I had on that was $4,500. Everywhere else was, they service larger areas and they were in the $8,000 to $10,000 range. So I've used this program in the past, so I'm very familiar with it. I think it's a very good program. I think it fit what we want to do very well.
Is there a fee? So if someone registers and uses their debit card, is there like 5% fee to that person or?
There's no fee, and I need to get with the Treasury Department about that. We've talked in passing about it before. It'd be the same thing as what you used to pay your taxes with. It'd be the same system as that.
There's
So,
a fee.
yeah. So,
I mean, there is a fee on it.
yeah, I think it's $1.50
But if you
surcharge.
use your check, there's no fee. If you do your
Yeah.
check account number.
I think it's $1.50 fee of that nature. So, it would be the same system that we have through the Treasury Department, so it wouldn't be two different systems. So they'd be able to run it just as well as we can.
Get into capital improvements a little bit, which I thought y'all was gonna have to copy this, but, the tennis courts, it's kind of been I don't know, I've really been thinking about the tennis courts. Tennis courts don't get used a tremendous amount, but when I was here before, that had been 12 years ago, I had a tennis court guy look at them. And, there's a patch job on tennis courts and then there's renovation. Your patch jobs last 2 to 3 years. We had a bid come in for $48,000, which was going to be a patch job. I reached out to a few other tennis court companies, and renovations about $200,000. If it came down to that, it'd be tough for me to really say tennis courts are worth that because we're not getting them used as much. Well, through this process, and this has been the last week because I had $200,000 down. The one company that got the bid, I spoke with them, and now they came back and said that they would. It's going to be a 3-year patch job, but he's able to drop his bid to $25,000. So I think what we'll do for right now is we will go ahead and renovate that way, and then down the road, if they're being used enough, then I might come back in front of the board and say, hey, we need to pull the trigger on this. But for right now, he was able to take $48,000 and do it for $25,000. So,
What's the 48 number you're quoting? Was that from last year's
yeah,
appropriation?
yeah. And
And that still includes the 2 pickleball courts, tennis court, and basketball court. It didn't change any of that nature. It's not just going over and repainting the lines on there. He's gonna still do what he said he did, but for a cheaper price.
So there will be a pickleball court,
There'll be 2 pickleball courts on
2 pickleball courts, 1 tennis court.
it, and 1 basketball court.
Have we any experience with this particular contract?
he done the schools.
He did the school.
So that's where we're at on that. And the people I've seen coming up using the tennis courts, probably just as many using it for basketball as there is tennis courts. So we're gonna try to do it nice and then just kind of see if that's what the public wants.
Does that include improved backboards and goals?
Yes.
for the-
Yes, it will. So we'll just follow on the capital improvement story on it. We used a lot of the gravel replacement, which was because going up to fields 1 and 2, make a whole big area more parking up there. Used a good bit of the portion of the capital improvements on that project right there. That's still included. We're still gonna have some more trail systems included in that, as well as, what's the state for that one? Yeah. But the majority of the gravel replacement has been used, that's been allotted to us for the capital improvements of that project.
We put 50,000 in for the playground, which I'm supposed to send a lot of you in the playground and picnic shelters up there is always used. I mean, if it's 45 degrees, there's somebody on that playground. We just need to update our equipment. I think it's been around, most of it's been around for, I'd say 20 plus years. So do some upgrades there. Possible outdoor volleyball court up there at the picnic shelters. The pool, was looking at adding a pool slide, which would be about 45,000. For the shelters, was looking at building a shelter down on the Lundy property, which I know Ben Jones has some information for us there as far as grants we're working with. Remodel the bathrooms at the picnic shelters. At shelter 1, add a chimney and a fireplace. And then new tables and benches up there.
How much was the pool slide?
45,000. And pool slides are big.
45,000 for a pool slide.
That's not one that you're gonna climb 60 feet up on. You're probably talking about a 20-foot slide.
You had mentioned when we talked about the handicap capability, where was that in the process of this pool?
That has been added to our project this year.
So it's gonna be done this year
Well,
with money from last year.
It's gonna be done in the fall. Everything on the interior of the pool, you can get to until fall.
So that's part of that interior pool.
We will
So-
be ADA compliant.
From a budget standpoint, this money we appropriated and authorized for last year, but it sounds like some of it didn't get spent in this FY. Will that just roll over as part of their budget?
With your approval, yes.
So not necessarily an increase in the budget, just moving the money from one FY to the next.
Correct.
Okay.
Is that pool slide, is that a big deal? Is that?
I mean, the first slide we had, we used to have went from the panel, business units, and they gave us about $2,500 a year. We was able to get our 2 small slides up there. And they get used a lot. As far as drawing more people, it's like the high dive. I mean, our high dive gets a lot of people coming in because very few have it. So I think a big slide would probably add that much more, a little bit more of a water park feel. When would it be added? I would think over on the 5-foot side, like there's some swimming lanes that are far into the pool over there. If you go with a bigger slide, you gotta have a little bit more depth to come into, so either 4 foot or 5 foot. As far as ball fields, we're gonna have to start replacing bleachers. Aluminum bleachers that are up there now were, I'm sure, from the 80s when the fields was built. Have no handrail on them. They're in bad shape. Actually, we're not using them this year. I know that we probably won't be able to replace them by this baseball season, but I'm worried to death about them. They've been patched on, so we're probably gonna just get them out of there. Tell you, people will just bring their chairs for 1 year anyway. Looking at a tractor, the tractor that we have now, we was able to raise money 15 years ago, that'd been 18 years ago, and bought the tractor that we have now. And it's starting to get some wear and tear, which is used when we bought it. 25.
Can you back on this, please? It's just an idea, but if they're redoing this football field, they're gonna have to move those bleachers out of the way, right? The aluminum ones on the visitor side. Could we repurpose them and put them up at the?
Soon they're gonna keep it.
No, but they gotta move them to do the field
For the summer,
for the summer.
temporary.
So temporarily move those bleachers up to the ball field, get them out of the way of the football field construction project, and then solve your problem with the poor bleachers that you currently have.
Just how much it's gonna take to get them bleachers.
I understand the logistics challenge, I'm not gonna solve that for you, but you just described a problem, and we know they gotta move them, and so, anyway.
Okay.
If I may, the bleachers, it's been my experience, they're not used that much anyway. And because they're in bad shape. The concrete bleachers are used, and that, most everybody fits on those concrete bleachers.
Down at field 1 and 2, we just had the loan.
Yeah, that's right.
And, I've kind of threw it back and forth. I got quotes. I've seen the price of aluminum bleachers are high. We possibly do a cinder block stationary bleacher down there for maybe cheaper. If we find somebody that won't help us out a little bit as far as laying the block. Then, I guess that's all on the budget part. I'll give a little bit of a success story. We have a, almost complete on a 2,600 square foot indoor, or covered batting facility. And as right now, we built it, as far as the county dollars, we're at $3.06 a square foot. We've had a lot of donations, actually had a $2,000 donation promised today. And what's the breakdown there?
So we have 5% in this. It's, right now, the total money is $40,533 is what it costs to build this building. So we're at 5% of the cost for that. Donation wise, we are at $12,000 worth of donations, just of pure donations, and then $14,000 worth of other donations that we have from another company. And then the school did $5,000 for the roof installment, and the softball program donated $5,000 of their money. So, been a big success as far as having community support, as far as school support, community support, anonymous donations, as far as that project goes right there.
So what's the hard number that the county's got in it?
$8,000.
And what's in 40, what was the total?
$41,000.
And this is all, I mean, it's a turnkey job. I guess you could probably just say materials times 2 and probably $70,000 to $80,000 bill. And it'll be used a lot, I believe. I mean, it's gonna be very accessible and maybe be able to do different things in it.
What's the total budget number?
For our new budget,
Yeah.
$479,000.
Which that includes the $60,000 that Lisa was talking about.
And that also includes rollover money. Right.
That is not, that's the ARPA money there. That's in a different line.
That'll be in the capital budget, not their line item budget.
Say that again.
That'll be in the capital budget, not the line item.
So the items like the pool
Yes,
is in the capital
It's in the
improvement
capital
budget,
budget.
not
Yes,
in the operational budget.
correct.
Well, it sounds like you guys have took what you had, did some research and saved us quite a bit of money. So I appreciate it. Y'all have any experience in building barns?
Do now. But no, the budget we received or inherited, especially on capital improvement, was very good. And I assume that's not something you get every year. I was here for 8 years and everything like that. So we are stretching it as far as we absolutely can stretch it.
Talking about the Lundy property. Trail going to the falls, been worked on because there's a VDOT grant that is town. Is the essence of.
Jada is working on some of that because she was doing that before. And the next phase I know is from there at the park office to the Lundy property. And then the next phase I think is the tie in from there at Old Tri-Tex building, that part of it.
I know VDOT did a grant, and if there's time limit on it, and we'll have to pay it back if it's not.
Jada, don't want to misspeak and put words on that, but she did say last time we met at the executive meeting, she did say that that grant had been for the service road to be brought up from Tritex along that way. And that is on phase 3 of the trail plan right there would be to connect it to the Lundy property. And that's in the next phase that they're working on right now, but it has not been started yet.
I was thinking this was crossing Powerhouse Road going up to the falls.
Yeah, running down Powerhouse Road.
Yeah.
To the falls.
We'll double check on that. and
We'll
see.
check on that,
Yeah.
because we have to pay VDOT back if we
We don't
don't do that.
do it.
You're thinking it's from, was the parking lot supposed to be over to the falls?
It's from the falls and runs up the road.
I think
Powerhouse
it's
Road.
from the park.
Yeah.
Down to Powerhouse Road and then along Powerhouse Road. I think is how they went because of the grade. And then down to the Lundy property and eventually across the road to the Powerhouse Falls parking lot. I may be off on the route, but there's a VDOT grant associated with it.
Yeah.
That's, as Supervisor Bell was saying, it's time sensitive.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys, appreciate it.
Good job, fellas. Y'all take Fred with you.
Yeah, take Fred.
Maybe you still catch his breath and walk in.
Next presenter, Teresa Taylor, Business Administrator, Virginia Department of Health.
Afternoon.
Hey, how are you?
Fred,
thank you.
Nice to see you.
You can stay, Fred.
I gotta go home meal.
Oh, yeah, well.
Better get busy.
I do. I have plenty of them. I think I have nine.
Good, yes. Good to see you.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I've got a couple of handouts she's gonna, that I'll leave with you. I think I have plenty. So I am here on behalf of the Mount Rogers Health District and the Virginia Department of Health. I'm the business manager or business administrator for the district. We're comprised of a fairly small team. Our district director is Dr. Noel Bissell, and 4 or 5 managers, several supervisors, and different folks of different capacities. And right now we have about 110 total employees across 8 districts. This one is a very important one to us, and I'm mostly glad to be here to say you all have been very good to us, and it's very appreciated. Your investment in health I tell most counties that I go to, it's both a short-term investment but it pays long-term dividends as long as we have our finger on the pulse of different population health initiatives and chronic disease, communicable disease in each area. So I always say it's all important, everything that we do, and I'm sure you hear that from every presenter, but it is for us as well. The handout that I've given you is it's what we call a one-pager. It's just an informational sheet for you. It tells you how many folks we've seen over the past year. Now, of course, we don't have the full data for this year, so we'll compile that and we try to get these out at the start of after we finish compiling the data. So all total, we've had about 1,400, a little over 1,400 visits to the actual health department. We have also a lot of initiatives that are off-site. Of course, our biggest over the past 2 years has been all hands on deck for COVID vaccine. We've administered, even up until last week, 4,200 doses here in the county, and numerous other childhood vaccines, and we'll ramp those up again in the fall as folks start back to school. We do have various partnerships with the school systems, Twin County Hospital, Prevention Coalitions, Rooftop. You can read them there. I don't need to regurgitate all that for you, but there are a number of priority issues And we've listed the first one that we're speaking, with other localities about. They've been very interested, about opioids. It's usually not a matter of if they're coming, but when, and if they already have. And we have a significant amount of data for that kind of tracking that we're watching very carefully for every locality. Obviously, some are higher than others, but that's a big initiative of the governor, and we take it very seriously, and are willing, of course, to help with Grayson County's issues that may stem from that. The second page is more data on exactly the programs that we have. We serve, of course, a lot of women. We have family planning services, long-term screenings for nursing homes and additional care. Baby care is very important. It's getting those babies early on, getting them vaccinated and the help that they need. Our WIC program is still about our only state program that's still virtual, and it's a federal program. I shouldn't have said state earlier. It's a federal program, but at the state level, it's delivered virtually, and they've found that it's working out very well. We have increased our numbers just about everywhere, so that's it's an important initiative for the young folks, young babies and mamas and all that need WIC services. Of course, our vaccines, I think those numbers kind of speak for themselves. We're always administering vaccine. Our environmental health program is big here. You've got a beautiful area. Every time I'm here, I'm like, I don't know, I live here. Anyway, but they've done last year, they've done 133 septic and well applications that were processed, 27 food facilities, and 31 food inspections, 4 swimming pools, 12 campgrounds. Their list usually goes on, and 51 animal bites investigated. We do have community health workers and population health who are more interested in groups that need maybe Narcan training, naloxone training, various other things. And of course, our COVID-19 response and our epidemiologists, we have 2 of them in the district. One is based out of Carroll County, but she of course covers this area with Galax and Grayson and some up here. So I'm not sure she slept during the pandemic. As a matter of fact, I'm sure she didn't. So that kind of highlights most of our programs. There's a lot more data, obviously, and in addition to that, the parts about the opioids. Let's see, maybe a couple other notes I wanted to share with you, just make sure I cover everything. For the past 13 weeks, even up to last week, for our district, we've given, just in the 13 weeks, 4,000 doses of COVID vaccine and 405 for Grayson County, just in the last 13 weeks. And currently in the district, we do have some outbreaks. We still see COVID from time to time. We're wanting it to go away just as well as everybody else is, so we can get back to full-time work on some of these things, but we're still working on that to try to curb that and not have any hot spots again. A new thing for the health department is, and you've probably seen on the news, is we have always gotten COVID vaccine at the federal level, and it's sent to us, no charge, so to speak. And now that's changing. We'll have to purchase vaccine. Your pharmacies will have to purchase vaccine. That's forthcoming to everyone. So that's a little bit of a change, but it's no different than some of the other immunizations that we have to give, or shots that we have to give. Like for travel vaccines and all, some of those can be pretty pricey. We don't yet know the prices of COVID vaccine or what that will look like, or if it will be a combination of COVID vaccine and the flu. And we don't know what the uptake of that will be for that going forward, but that's an important change. We didn't know about that at the time that we did our budget, so weren't able to include some sort of guesstimate of what that might look like, but anyway, that's a new thing to everybody, and there's been several county budgets that have been submitted before we knew that, so how things change. Given all those services and the things that we have been doing and how you all have been so good to us, we're asking for $194,743 for the coming fiscal year 24. I think that's a difference of a little over $9,500 and about a little over 5%.
Would you say that number again, please?
Yes, the number of that were
You're
requested.
asking the county for
Yes,
what?
194,743. Is that what you have, Lisa?
I didn't bring all that.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
And that's an increase of 9,500?
9580, I believe.
Thank you.
It's a little over 5%. I think currently, in budget plans at Richmond, as we've understood it, we've heard different scenarios, but the governor's proposing either a 7% increase for state employees on up to a 9% for those that are extraordinary contributors. Of course, we all think we have extraordinary contributors, but nevertheless, those are things, and they're not included in this as well, so.
So on the opioid thing, the settlement that's occurred,
Yes,
are you all on a separate funding line with some of that settlement money?
we're not.
You're not?
No, it has to come from the localities and all. We do have some ARPA funds, and you know how they're very careful about how those are applied and all, but there's a small portion. I think our portion was 19,000. I may be speaking, I have a lot of numbers in my head. But it's specifically for an already established program that we have in Smith County for comprehensive harms. It's been in place for a few years, so that's the only thing we've received, and it's specific to that. So anything that we would get comes from the county level or locality level.
So, we got a little bit of money
Yes,
that we appropriated to, between the Commonwealth Attorney, a couple different organizations.
Yes, sir.
Do you work with them to help address this opioid thing with some of these? So you're tied in with what those efforts are?
We're not at the moment. I mean, with this, with the new initiative of these funds and all, we'd certainly like to be. To be honest with you, it looks different in every locality. We've had 2 proposals for, in 2 locations where they don't really have it earmarked and they don't know what to do with it. So they're looking for someone to take the lead of how to organize it. So we've had good conversations with them to where we start, and then we bring in the partners of your sheriff or local police, your community services board, your emergency personnel. A lot of it on the front end is education. There is a significant amount of data that it's pretty alarming that maybe folks aren't aware of, that our emergency planner does get. It involves the trafficking on the corridors of 77 and 81 and some hot spots, and data that comes from colleges, universities in our region, and they're not nice numbers to look at, but we have to try to partner with our the folks in each locality to see how best to address the problems and try to stem any further issues with it.
So the funding that you're talking about to do this opioid abatement proposal.
Yes.
All right, you're gonna do that based on the money that each of the localities appropriate you.
Each incubator project that we're presenting, and I basically put this one together very quickly for you all because I thought, well, you're here and I'll go ahead and give you everything that I've got. There's nothing to hide on it. That's specific for Grayson County. So, the request for funds for support for that would come from whatever funds you get if that's a possibility. But I thought at least I would send it out.
But is that what you need to try to implement this incubator
Yes.
program? Is that part of the 194,
No, it isn't.
743?
No, it's separate.
So do you have an estimate of what you think that program for Grayson County would cost?
Just given, I don't have the data from last week, but probably from about 2 or 3 months ago. Let's see, this is essentially March 1st. Maybe it was 2 months ago. You don't have as many numbers as some of the other places, but you do have some. We can swallow that for you if we need to. It's a
Well,
And that,
It looks like an ask, right?
It is.
The program,
it is. And
I'm in
it's,
favor of it, but I just don't know what the number is that we need to kind of crunch on to
right.
be able to figure it out.
And we can dive into it further for you. I thought as a first conversation, it would be a good starter, because the incubator is what we're doing in some other areas. And the costs are different, but those are roughly what it would take to start. And, you know, we're talking about the navigator, basically, for your
Right.
sheriff's department, your EMS, and all the partners with community services, a navigator to put all those pieces together and work it for this community. But that's, of course, I'd be glad to dive into that more for you if you need to.
Sheriff, I can ask you a question. Can you explain to me what a navigator is?
A navigator, we have, like Medicare and Medicaid, whenever that changed, and Affordable Care Act and that kind of thing, and each of those programs gave each region a navigator for patients or potential patients to navigate them towards insurance and what opportunities they may have for, you know, being covered under insurance, and then navigating them to, say, a physician or the health department or whoever might provide those services and accept that insurance. So much in the same way, a navigator is a person, for instance, my coordinator over comprehensive harms in Smith County, she helps navigate with community services, the Community Services Board, for folks that they may have that want to want to get into recovery. And she's a peer, so she navigates with them to what the next step is for them, even if it's not for us. And she navigates groups of people like Oak Hill
County.
Yeah. They've been to Oak Hill and talked to their staff there so that they're Narcan trained, and some of they have the ability to train some of their own now. So she navigates getting groups together like that are interested, providing the training for them. And then they also have, in turn, they have her name and number. So if they have someone that needs some recovery assistance or some addiction assistance, and she can navigate them towards those specific services. And that's the same type of role that we've listed there.
Thank
Did you say, you know, we got the money from opioid to Brandon? Ain't Brandon doing that? Is that not?
Yes, same thing, yes. There's local funds, and then there's also grant dollars that are available. But our local funds is what you have dedicated to recovery coordination.
Would she have to go to them for that?
Yes, if we could talk offline.
Yeah. And some are doing it that way. They, the two counties we have now on board with a little bit further crunched numbers that speak to their budget, they didn't even have, they didn't have a formal process put together. Had not yet earmarked their money. So they're just looking for us or somebody to take the wheel on it. But obviously we'll have to bring in partners such as their sheriff's department or their police or whatever too. And their EMS, all sorts of folks, counselors. We were actually, back in November, I think, the governor's office called us one day and said the first lady and the governor were going to come to Washington County, and she was wanting to be Narcan trained. And they spent about 45 minutes with her. It's a big initiative for them, and we're glad to try to take that on. It's not a small task anywhere, but they're that focused and want us to be that way as well. So that's why I thought I'd take this opportunity. It's not probably the right time, but I was here and I had those together for some other localities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
I
much.
hope you have a good evening.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you for your support over the years. Thank you, appreciate it.
Our next presenter is Mr. Tom Jones, Chair, Twin County Airport Commission. Good to have you, sir.
Thank you very much. First, I want to say, we certainly appreciate all the support that Board of Supervisors of Grayson County has given the Airport Commission in the last few years, and we're continuing to try to move the airport forward. I hope you have a copy of my letter. Did you, Linda, did you give them? You didn't? Okay. Anyway, we sent a letter to you the 1st of February, basically requesting the very same amount that we did last year. So we're not asking for any increase. However, our budget is normally $56,560, which includes $36,600 for our general operation and $19,960 for the VRA loans that y'all help us support. So basically, we were able to have additional fuel sales that we were able to cover all our operating expenses with that. What we are asking for again this year is an additional $20,000 like we did last year to build these 4 box hangars. What happened was engineering firms estimated at first that it was only going to be $300,000 to do the site development. Well, when it was finally come around to bid, it ended up being $635,000 to do the site development. We had 2 bids. One was $500 and some thousand plus the engineering fee, which made it $635,000. And the other bid was $800 and some thousand, would have been over $900,000. So we feel pretty good about the cost that it's going to do to do the site development. There's another airport not far from us that did pretty much the same site development we did. They only had the 1 bid, and it was $800 and some thousand. So theirs is going to cost them approximately $900,000 to get this site development to build some hangars. And everyone wants to put their airplane in a hangar now because of the cost of avionics, and they want to keep them out of the weather and the ultraviolet rays. And so if you don't have hangar space, then basically it's hard to build your base of aircraft. We basically have 12 T hangars, which are totally full, been full for the last several years. We have 1 commercial building that's full of aircraft, and then the other commercial building we rent as FBO. So, and he has good business built up there, and so that hangar is full too. So we want to be able to get these built.
Sure. FBO?
FBO, yes, sir.
What is that acronym?
It stands for fixed based operator. In other words, he offers mechanical services, and then and also could offer training. We do offer training over there. Jump down just a little bit. Let me get back to talking about this building first.
Yeah.
And of course, when we get ready to start actual construction of the buildings, Congress evidently appropriated some money for airports 2 or 3 years ago, and Twin County's share was $795,000 over a 5-year period. Okay, the first year, we're in the second year right now. The first year we got our $159,000 for that year. The second year they cut us back to $145,000. So right now we have banked $304,000 to go towards the actual construction of the buildings. What we plan to do is bid it. We're hoping that the site construction will be finished by 1st of July or somewhere along in there. And then we'll bid it and try to have it construction in August or 1st of September, which then we will get another, which we hope will be at least 140, or go back to 159,000. So that'll give us approximately 450,000 to do the actual construction of the buildings itself.
So your ask is the same funding, flat funding for the annual appropriation, but you're asking for an additional $20K one-time appropriation in order to do the construction.
That's correct. Yeah, right? We asked for it last year. Y'all gave it to us, and like I say, our cost doubled, and so we're asking it so we can use that other money to build the buildings with. So that's pretty much.
So the total for this year, is it 40,000?
No, it'd be 76,500. $76,560.
Can you help me out with this too? Because I get asked this question a lot when folks see this in our budget. How much does Grayson County benefit from this?
Well, I think the economic development that the airport offers to help bring industry into Carroll County, Grayson County, and City of Galax is a lot, because I know y'all are invested in Wildwood, and Wildwood is right across the street from Twin County Airport, or right across the interstate from Twin County Airport. I will say we are working with someone now for information about the area. So, and Proceedus had 2 or 3 meetings over there with us, and we let them use our facilities. We invite y'all, if you need to use it, you're welcome, certainly welcome to use it. So,
Do any of our residents house their plane over there? Or any Grayson County residents?
That's a good question. I really don't know. I don't know that. The airport manager keeps up with that, and then I don't know. Like I say, we got approximately 25 or 26 airplanes based at Twin County right now.
Okay, so back on the economic development, it's been a few years since I came to a committee meeting and, or commission. And there was an idea at the time about trying to extend the runway to be able to handle larger aircraft, or at least allow them to take off full tank of fuel. Is that effort, I think it was tied to takeoff and landings in order to justify the cost of the study for the expansion? That all sound somewhat familiar?
That's correct. It has to be so many with the jet aircraft that
Right.
needs to have 5,000 feet. That is correct.
Is that still on your all's plate as something you want to do?
We have worked hard to get to convince the FAA, saying if we build it, they will come. But we can't convince the FAA because it doesn't meet their guidelines.
Right.
I will tell you, last year we asked the board to give us a letter of support. The commission went to Senator Warner, Senator Kane, and Congressman Griffith and asked them to appropriate $25 million to help get this done. And Senator Warner and Kane sent $2 million request to the Appropriations Committee to try to help us get started. But the Appropriations Committee turned that down. So we've continued to work on it. I mean,
But you have the real estate with Wildwood, you know, where it is and the orientation of the runway. You're still okay. You think you have the real estate to be able to expand, or would that be part of?
Yeah, that's going to be part of it. In fact, we were headed towards Wildwood, but with the flight path over Wildwood, we're going to the south.
Okay.
And there's only 3 tracks that join us that will have to be acquired by the commission, and there's no buildings on them. So, you know, I think the land acquisition could come pretty quick if we could ever get to go ahead. But we definitely been working on it and still continue to work on it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. We appreciate y'all's support. Thank you.
Next presenter is Rihanna Powers, Executive Director, District 3.
Hey, thank you for having me over tonight. I neglected to bring some copies too, so I apologize for not bringing copies, but you should have all of my information in the what was submitted earlier. Of course, I'm with District 3 Governmental Cooperative, and we are the Area Agency on Aging and the public transit provider for our district. We serve the counties of Bland, Carroll, Grayson, Smith, Washington, and Wythe, and the cities of Galax and Bristol, Virginia. The purpose that why District 3 exists is to help meet the critical needs and enhance the quality of life for our seniors and the transportation-dependent residents of our area. We provide a wide array of services for the elderly and their caregivers. We provide public transportation, both rural and urban, and we support the efforts of local governments to develop and maintain livable communities. where our ask this year did increase slightly. We have, we base our aging assessment. The transit assessment didn't go up any. We didn't change any of the routes. We didn't change any of that right now. I know that we've looked into some of that and we've talked about that a little, but right now that number stayed the same for the next year. The number that did change was the aging assessment. And that was because when we got the 2020 census figures, the population adjustments changed, and we base our per capita rates on that population. So it varied across the counties significantly. And so to keep it fair, what we looked at, it's typically, and it's been since 2018, the assessment rate for aging has been 59 cents per capita. And this year our board looked at that and they decided to go ahead and raise the per capita rate to 63 cents. So that's where the increase came from. So overall, we're looking for the ask for Grayson County specifically is last year for a grand total of $496. That's the increase that we're asking for the next year. And I can go through and give you guys like a summary of our aging services in case you don't know. But, and I've got those numbers. So last year we did care coordination and information assistance, and that's the more specific, like one-on-one direct support for seniors. We assisted 120 persons in Grayson County. This was over the course of last federal fiscal year, so October 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022. So we have 120 there. Chore and home repairs, we assisted 38 persons. Congregate meals, 3,947. Those are the hot meals at the senior sites. Emergency financial assistance, so this is getting seniors medicines, groceries, continence supplies, things like that. There were 233 persons assisted. Home delivered meals spiked up so much, and that's because we were able to, with COVID, give home delivered meals not only to our homebound seniors, but also to the congregate meal sites, because we were able to double up. They allowed us to double up during COVID to get more food out in the community to folks. So that for Grayson County last year was 16,494 meals. Money management, which is folks who can't manage their funds on their own, need help paying bills, need help with that sort of thing. You guys have 7 persons in Grayson County who take advantage of that service. Caregiver support, which could be like respite, homemaker, that sort of thing, support groups. 84 persons. Homemaker, direct homemaker, which is like light housekeeping, things like that for seniors, was 5 people. Consumable supplies, which was new for last year, there were 22 persons served. You had a total of 1,789 hours of volunteer service, and you had 53 people who had received senior medical service, which is the direct one-on-one. We pick a senior up, take them to the doctor, that sort of thing, apart from public transportation. Public transportation, we served, there were 4,168 boardings on the public transit system for last year. So those are some of the services. I did forget to bring farmers market numbers. I had thought about that after the fact, but I'll have to grab those numbers and give those to you too, because I'm sure you guys have a lot for Grayson County. But that's another one of the services that we do. But overall, so that was the aging assessment went up to what we're asking for aging services is $9,660. And then transportation services didn't change. So that's $5,547.
So you, the other day when we were chatting, you mentioned about the funds that you had gotten for some of this additional assistance during the pandemic and all that's going away.
Right.
Right, that's all ended, is that correct?
All of it's ended for transit. We spent all of our ARPA and our CARES for transit. We still have ARPA left until September 30th, 2024 for aging. We still do have some of those funds
So
left.
the money that you got for transportation that you're no longer gonna receive,
Right.
What does that translate to in the services?
So we go back to normal, which during the pandemic, some of the services did, like we had to limit the number of buses and things like that. So some of the ridership did go down during that time. So right now, that just means that we go back to our normal. So we go back to our normal budget. The ridership has started to increase, that more people are getting on the buses and riding and everything. It's getting to where it normally is.
So no significant impact to operational,
No.
no operational impact is what you're thinking?
No, and we didn't stop even the whole time through COVID. Like, we continued to operate.
Right.
We didn't change any of our service. We had to limit, like I said,
Right.
with riders or something like that. We had to limit with homemakers. We may have had to have them make calls to seniors instead of going into the home, that sort of thing.
Right.
But we didn't stop any services.
Right. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Good seeing you again.
You too, thank you.
Yeah, live this time.
And I sent you an email, so you'll have all that other.
All right.
Thank you.
We're gonna go ahead and take another break about, looks like our next presenter will be here. Yeah.
Let's look at copies of anyone that I have received.
In the OneDrive.
That's a surprise.
Oh, yeah, well,
They have it online, do they have it online
Yeah.
process?
Okay.
And they have it,
Yeah, she's not usually here.
Okay, I didn't know how she did that.
Yeah, she's the, typically the board member, but she's, I'm the alternate. She's the.
Gotcha.
Okay. And she usually calls.
15,000, she's in the
Yeah. Oh,
It's not.
no, good job, we appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
We got a couple more. I think we're good. Good to see you.
Thank you.
How are you?
Hey, Eric. You're next.
I'm next. 5:30. 5:30.
You coming for Dean?
I'm expecting him to be here.
Will be here. Yeah, he will be here. They had just asked the two Grayson County representatives to attend if they could.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good, you? Good, good.
I mean, you kind of ball, man. Yeah, basketball, man. It's not over. You're gonna be young this week, I think. You're like the wood this weekend. Well, both of my family.
I'm gonna leave mine.
Yeah, I know, I'm the same way. I'm always handing these out, we're doing very right now, so that will,
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I'm gonna call this, but I'm sure he was too good.
And freeze.
He's gonna accept.
Yeah.
Shorter this one.
yeah, thank you.
How you doing?
Hey.
Sandy, Brian. We met before.
I didn't know if you remember me or not. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
And you've been doing.
It's not, everybody's back. We'll go ahead and call our, budget presentation, session back to order. And, our next presenter is, Dr. Dean Sprinkle, President of Community College. And glad to have you, sir.
Thank you. As one of my kids is known to say, it's nice to be had. We do have a packet of information that I believe has been handed out, and it's fairly familiar to you. I hope it's the same as it's been in the previous years. I'll go through the PowerPoint handout that's in there and get some highlights, and then if there are questions, certainly be happy to answer those. We'd like to acknowledge Joe Reeves, who is here in Grayson County, representative to our board. The other representative is Patsy McKnight. If you look at the second page, Joe, you can see where our enrollment's at. We've got 1,807 students overall, and then 193 from Grayson County. Heather Cole does an outstanding job as the career coach for Grayson County schools, and she does everything from helping students with financial aid, information to preliminary advising, and helping them make sure if they're eligible for dual enrollment courses. She does that both in person in the schools, but also utilizes technology, Zoom and telephone and email to do that as well. Josh Floyd, who I suspect some of you know, Josh is outstanding. Josh led the effort a couple of years ago for us to become the second of Virginia's community colleges to have national accreditation for dual enrollment. We're very proud of that. You can see some dual enrollment information down there. You can see the credentials that those students can earn through dual enrollment. We have presently 3 Grayson County dual enrollment students taking a welding class at Crossroads, where they will earn certificates that are relevant to that skill set and to prepare them for work in that industry. 54 scholarships awarded by the Educational Foundation for Grayson County schools. That's $30,000, almost $31,000. We do get a number of scholarships, both from the Educational Foundation and local board scholarships. You can see there that the Educational Foundation has raised over $58,000 for Grayson County Scholarship Program. Twin County Scholarship Program, which of course encompasses GALACs as well as Carroll and Grayson counties. That scholarship is available to students from those respective areas who've lived in the area at least 2 years prior to graduation. They do have 5 semesters to use that. So if something happens and they can't start out right at the beginning, they still do have some eligibility for up to 5 semesters following their graduation. The Twin County Scholarship Program, I hope you're all familiar with that, but if not, those students do provide some community service. They provide 10 hours of volunteer service to a nonprofit organization if they sign on for that scholarship. Twin County scholarships awarded to Grayson County students. There were 19 students for spring semester and 8 students for fall of last year. Citizens in the county have graciously contributed almost $8,000 this past year. And the Educational Foundation Board of Directors, I know everybody in this room is bound to know Ricky Anderson and Troy Sage, so they are our representatives there, and Rodney Halsey, of course, is the Scholarship Foundation representative. If you turn the page on the handout there, you'll see the things that we continue to provide for workforce development, and of course, always available to do customized training. And then CDL, truck driver training, which falls into that category of high demand, high wage, hard to drive far without seeing a one ad for either on the back of the truck or on a billboard for CDL drivers. But we had 6 students from Grayson County, 2 students in the Powerline program that I would defer any questions about Powerline to Kim. And the vet assistant program, we've had 3 students and two students in the welding program that are above and beyond those that are in dual enrollment. So we're really pleased to be able to do the dual enrollment classes with those students. You can see the free offerings that we have there, including things like the concert, the band, the choir, computer basics. The budget, as most of you will recall, for the college, the local budget is based off of the percentage of the students who participate from the respective service areas that we provide coverage for through Whitfield Community College. This year, the overall budget has not changed in 6 years. The budget request this year for Grayson is $18,159.95. We would ask that you consider that request. There's other information in your packet. I saw some of you already looking at our essentials book, which has information about programs. These little pamphlets or one-page flyers are basically information about things that it's just a select set of programs that mostly are available at Crossroads. Some of the demographics, and then I'll just see if you have any questions, but some of the demographics, we continue to be heavily female. About 60-some% of our students are female, 38% male. Vast majority of the students receive financial aid. Almost 90% of the full-time first time in college receive financial aid. So these scholarships that we talk about are very important. There's information in here too about what we use the local funds for. The short story on that is we use local funds for things that you cannot use the state funding for. Those things, one thing in particular that we're doing right now that's been very popular with our students is we're using a portion of the local funds to offset the cost or pay for the cost of the regalia for the students. So we've taken that financial burden away. We found that we had some students who I think would have participated in graduation ceremonies, but it might not be a big thing for any of us in this room, but the cost of the regalia could be an option for them. So we put those funds to use for that. That's my presentation. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
So could you hit on, and it may be in the material, but some of the future things you're thinking about doing from a programmatic standpoint? So for example, there's fiber being put in throughout Grayson County and Wythe County all around, sure. And splicing that fiber sure. Is always a challenge. What's Whitfield thinking about, kind of as looking into the future a little bit?
Well, that particular piece is not in the future. That particular piece, we're glad to say, is part of our underground program, okay. The power line program. So we have at least 3 components we're going to look at. There's a CDL component, there's the overhead, and then there's the underground. And there is a splicing and cable component to that. Some other things that we've got going on, and you might have heard about this, but we haven't been able to offer a lot on the western side of our service area as far as occupational workforce type things, and we were able to work with Smith County EDA, and we have a facility over there that will be putting in things like welding that will be easier access. Over here, we're already doing welding at Crossroads, but it'll be easier for folks over on the west side to do that. We've started an automotive tech program at the encouragement of the Virginia Auto Dealers Association and some of the local auto dealers in our service area. So that's coming forward. Trying to think if there's other things that are on we are expanding the power line program just because there is so much demand. I was trying to think if there's anything else I could throw in there, but there are certainly things, and if folks know of things that we need to be doing, we are always receptive to that, with the caveat that we have to have startup funds, we have to have the right type of space, just like that facility over in Marion, and we're trying to get that up to speed. We're also doing a Kubota diesel program. Now it's through the Kubota curriculum, but if you go through a diesel program, you can do diesel. So those are some of the things that are on the drawing board right now. I'll be starting up probably summer, fall.
Well, it's good to know we need diesel mechanics.
Yeah, we saw a need there. And
yeah, awesome.
Other question?
I have a question, I got a statement. I benefited from WCC many moons ago, and all three of my kids too have been through there, and one's currently there. So I really do appreciate what you guys do and see the overall benefits. So
thank you so much. Thanks so much. We hear lots of positive stories from folks who have benefited.
I think
we like to believe that we change lives.
You're a bright spot in the region for sure.
Although you did admit my brother, I still don't know why you did that.
I'm not going to comment. Any other questions?
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for all you're doing.
Appreciate it. Appreciate y'all. Thank you.
You'll take Joe with you, please.
Judge will stay. No.
They don't want me to stay. Hey, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Our next presenter is Sandy Bryant, Director, and Patty Belcher with Financial Services Manager.
I'm Sandy Bryant, and Patty Belcher, our CFO, will also speak specifically about our request. You do have a packet there on the front page. I just wanted to go over our numbers, which have grown considerably over the last couple of years. Individuals that we served in fiscal year 22 across all 6 jurisdictions was close to 10,000. And just in this year, the first 6 months, we've seen 7,382 individuals. In Grayson County, in fiscal year 22, we saw a total of 983, which was over 5% of Grayson County population. As you can see, in the first 6 months of fiscal year 23, we have 783 individuals that we are serving. The percentage, I thought you'd be interested to know, percentage that are under 18, we're of course providing services in every one of the schools here, is 31.8%, which is concerning. 313 children are needing services at this time. They've had a rough time with the pandemic, and we're working very hard to help them with their trauma. Percentage of those that are over 18 is 68.2%. 75% of these individuals receive mental health services currently. 15% are substance use disorder only services, and then 7.4% are having to receive both mental health and substance use services together. 68 individuals we have served at the Twin Crisis Care Center, and 24 children have been admitted to our PASS 8-bed crisis stabilization unit. Because of our PASS program, being full all the time, we are currently developing a 12-bed crisis state unit in Graham's Forge because we have so many children who need a bed. And we don't want to have to send them to Stanton to the state hospital there. Another statistic that I wanted you to be aware of, that we are aware of, and we are the first CSB of the 40 CSBs in the state that are doing geriatric pilot project for geriatric services for mental health. This is growing, and in Grayson County, 1 out of every 4 of your citizens are over 62. That's not only a challenge for us, that's a challenge for you guys. And we're here as partners to help with that. We're developing behavioral unit supports in our nursing homes in our areas. We have a warm line that's serving a lot of the Grayson County individuals that are living in their homes. None of those numbers, by the way, are counted in this treatment. We serve thousands of additional individuals in our catchment area for prevention services, and that warm line is a prevention service. We are in need of additional space, and we think we have a plan that I can't really discuss at this time, but I do want to assure you that I hope by July 1st that we will have additional space for counseling services in Grayson.
Here in Grayson, you're gonna have a space.
But thank you for being such good partners with us. And again, we're here to collaborate and work with you to meet the needs of Grayson citizens and take care of them to the best of our ability.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
You said the 24 individuals, you mentioned PATH. Is Cornerstone or PATH?
Oh, that's right. It's adult or children. Cornerstone is the adult one.
Okay.
Sorry.
So is that 24 with the kids and all? It's 24?
No, it's 24 adult and children. You're absolutely right. I only looked at the path.
Okay.
24. Yeah.
I know I've worked over there some, so I thought there's a lot more people than that come through.
I may still be confused then. It's a total of 24 that either is doing Cornerstone
or pass. That's right. That's right. Absolutely right.
Got it. Right. And so your ask is for $120,011.
I'll let
Current contribution last year was $55K. Is that?
That is correct. So let me just give you a highlight. I know that you have this in your packet, but of course, what we request from each county is based upon Virginia State Code. So for every $1 that the state gives us, for every 90 cents the state gives us, we're supposed to get a 10% local match from our localities. So basically what we do at the beginning of the year is we estimate what our state funds are going to be for next year, and that's general state funds. It's not restricted, it's just general state funds. And then we actually look to see what the population in each one of our catchment areas is and divide that total ask of what we think that, that 2% local match has to be. So yes, for 2024, we've estimated our state funding is going to be $11,739,818. And so 10% of that local match gives you $1,304,424. So what we've tried to do is work with each one of our localities to see, what kind of in-kind match does the county have. And so a lot of those matches come from rental spaces, like in each one of our school systems. The school provides us a space to actually treat the students and gives us a space to offer outpatient services. Sometimes we have contributions, those may be cash. We also have facilities that are being rented to us below market value. So those are the kind of things that we try to take into consideration and reduce that local match that's required.
So as you can see, we also get to use, interest income. So we take that $1.3 million and we reduce it by the in-kind contributions, the cash contributions, and the local, interest revenue to come up with what we would really need from each one of the localities to get the, that local match, which is $901,424. So, like I said, that is divided by each locality's population, and it comes out to be $7.78 per each citizen in Grayson County, which would be, we're asking for $120,011. And so you're absolutely right. Last year, you gave us $55,000, but if you were to look, last year we actually requested $101,580, and we were funded $55,000. So like I said, the state requires that we ask for that 10% local match from each locality.
So when you're coming up with your formula, it's based on our population, but it's not necessarily based on our number of citizens served. Is that fair?
That is correct. It is based upon citizens that's in the county.
So we didn't fund you $50,000 last year from your ask. That didn't necessarily then translate to a reduction in services given what our population seeking services is. Is that right? Okay.
Like I said, what the state tells us is that we ask for 10%.
Yeah, I got it.
If we don't get 10%, we have to actually request a waiver. So in the past, there's been some years that the state has been questionable about that and wants the counties to fund 10%, but we can only ask and you give us the funding that you can.
Okay.
Yeah, we will serve everyone who walks through our doors, whether they can pay or not, and it has nothing to do with what you can get.
Right.
Is the state funding on population too?
It is not. It is not based on, well, so at the beginning of the year, I said the state funding, the state gives us periodically some raises in those general funds, but not a lot. Sometimes they're like 5% of the state funds, but then you hear the state actually is giving 5% increases. We can't give a 5% increase to our employees because our 5% is only maybe a small portion of what we would fund employees. So they usually give us a cost of living raise, which may be 2 to 5% on our general funds, but it is not based upon, as far as I know, it is not based upon what the population in the counties are.
So some of the state's formula is geared toward some of the counties in Northern Virginia. They just have one CSP. Ours is, we're unique with New River and Highlands and Mount Rogers, and we're regional, so our catchment area is several different counties. So your ask is going to be greater in Carroll because they have greater population. But I see that it's less in Galax, who maybe get, because a lot of the services primarily are provided in Galax, maybe getting the bulk of the benefit.
So like I said, we just take the population, that's the fair way. And so you can see that the city of Galax, their population is 6,681 versus Grayson County, that's almost double of 15,418. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sort of. And so if you mentioned or alluded to, there's going to be possibly a facility in this area. And I know you may not be at liberty to give us much detail on that, but I know I've heard from folks in our community quite a bit that I guess have been asking when Mount Rogers does projects, when are they going to do something in Grayson?
We would like to expand in Grayson County. Our problem has been is finding space to do that. We talked for several years of trying to expand in Grayson County. And so we would appreciate any help that you might have in finding facilities to open up. Like I said, we're looking at some options on expanding our clinic. We really need to have an adult clinic. And I guess it's children's clinic too, right?
Well, what we have now is a combined children and adult clinic, and we really need to have, that space could just do children. Right now, most of the space is for children because we see so many children in Grayson. The adults are going, unfortunately, to with or Carroll for service. So, but we do have a couple of adult providers here. We need the same amount of space for adult, and I can sincerely say that we have worked on this and think we found a solution, but our board just voted on it this afternoon, and I can't say anything until after.
I got you.
Yeah, thank you.
But we have been working on this for about 3 to 4 years of trying to find space so that we could expand. And I've just run into sort of roadblocks every time that we try to find space.
So was there any explanation as to why you didn't get your full ask last year? Because I didn't remember, this is just my first complete year. I didn't remember it being not met.
So if you look, I think maybe in the original packet, I may have sent you a local history. And if you look, it has the last 4 years on it. It's not in this packet, but I thought I sent it when I sent the first request.
They don't have that information in front of them.
Okay, so it looks like the last 4 years, the request that we've asked from Grayson County has always been, what we were given has always been less than 4 years. It looks like last year, well, for 23, Grayson County funded 48.94% of what we'd asked for. The year before it was 51.19. In 2021, it was 48.88, and in 2020, it was 30.48. So there's always been this piece that's not been funded. And like I said, we understand that localities can give what they can, but our request has always been much higher than what we were funded.
And the state's never come down and slapped our hand that I'm aware of.
The state actually has been about 3 to 4 years ago, actually tried to really enforce that.
They slap our hand.
Yeah,
They don't slap your hand, they slap ours.
Right.
Slap the messenger.
It's our department, DBHDS, which is Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. They came down and actually said, you really need to work with each one of your localities to try to get your 10% local match. But they have no authority over the county here. So, you know, that's like one of those things where you're telling us we need to get funding, but we have no teeth in the matter.
How many, how many of the localities for your district do 100% of your ask?
So none of them do 100%. Like I said, if you look at this piece of paper, we have some that's at 89%. We have a couple that's 89%. And, and every year, like I said, if you fund 100%, we did have a locality that funded 100% for a couple of years. But our state revenue always tends to grow because we're always opening new programs. And so even though you may get 100% one year and you give us the same amount the next year, of course, our state funds has increased, which means that your 10% increases. But yes, to answer your question.
Thank you.
Mr.
This is a little off topic a little bit, but there's this new 988 number that's being implemented. Is this like a governor's initiative for?
It's actually a nationwide initiative. The 988 number for Southwest Virginia is out of Frontier Health, which is down in Wise, and they're doing a great job with the 988.
So the reason I asked that is because, and I have very limited information on this, number one, is why I'm asking, but I guess I was led to believe if our sheriff's department participated in that, there would be some funding for two deputies, potentially a grant. Is that something you're aware of, or is this just something that maybe somebody just threw at me?
I'm not aware of that.
Because that could really help us with some of our other objectives if the sheriff's office did participate. I haven't had a conversation with him about it or not, but this is just something.
Related to transports.
It was to help with that, yeah, it was to fund 2 additional positions if they agreed, and it was my understanding that Carol and Grayson or Galax weren't participating in that specific program. But that's not something you got.
Unless you're talking about the Marcus alert.
That's it, that's it.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
yes,
yes.
okay. Yes, yeah, you're elected, not to participate in the Marcus alert. But
Our sheriff elected, is that what?
I don't know if it was sheriff or the locality, but chose not to participate in the Marcus alert.
Awesome. Can you present or just give this board maybe a little idea of what the Marcus alert is? Because it may be something that might can help us.
The Marcus alert is they're looking for communities to develop a mental health co-response with law enforcement. And we're very willing to do that with any law enforcement group that would like to do that. If we do that, then there is money that comes down for additional positions.
Yeah, that was it. I couldn't think of the name, and the Marcus alert was
Is
actually.
it related to the suicide, or is it just mental health in general?
It's mental health in general, but the localities that have done the Marcus alert is going well. And we are very willing at any time to start working on a Marcus alert.
Is the 988 and Marcus, that's two different.
Two different
Two different
things.
animals. I got them. I'm
That's
muddy the waters there, but, yeah, because it was, individual had got out on the highway and it's named after, I think the bill was named Marcus alert after this incident that happened on the freeway.
Right, and when it first was introduced, I can understand why law enforcement was very hesitant. They don't want someone like me sitting in their car while they're trying to deal with it, because then they would be worried about me.
Right.
You know, so that type of response was what they were describing. What localities are doing is more that the mental health worker will come when the police say we're ready for you, versus a mental health person's always riding in the car with them, which is how it was first introduced. And I don't blame law enforcement for saying, you know, when we're responding to an incident. So I think that's been softened somewhat, so that I think our law enforcements will, once they see a few others do well, they'll want to do it too.
And I appreciate that, because maybe that's a conversation we can have when we get to that.
Yes. Be glad to help in any way.
Excellent, thank you.
Ma'am, can I ask one more
I'm
question?
sorry.
2 questions. One, it's grant funding from the state that would pay for 2 additional deputies.
That's what it was, the original statement was that.
Is
they
there a
would get,
time frame or a shelf life on that?
I don't know. I have promised that I would have at least one law enforcement of 12. We have 12 law enforcement within our 6 jurisdictions by 2024. So I'm looking for at least one law enforcement of those 12 that might be interested. And then we'll write a grant and ask for what they think they need.
And the social worker would be held to strictly mental health, or?
That's how I hope. Yeah, we don't want to, you know, carry guns and, you know, and
Well, I mean,
help with any of that.
would there be any additional services like, our sheriff's department gets called on meth use and
Oh, yes.
opioid, and would that be
Absolutely.
an additional service? So
Substance
open
use,
the doors for
crisis,
all of the services of Mount Rogers.
trauma, family and trauma. If the police officers needed some trauma work, we'd be glad to do that. Yes, anything like that, yes. We'd be glad to do.
Sorry.
So I think what you're saying is not specific to a mental health diagnosis, but
No,
there's
anyone
an
that's in
incident,
crisis.
someone passed away, and the trauma and all that, so it would be, big win-win.
You saw a child, crying on the street, you could call us and we would come and respond.
And
Be there with you.
those social workers would be housed in the county that the sheriff wanted to do this, we wanted
Yes.
to look at this, we would have 2 additional social workers funded to be in Grayson County.
I doubt it'd be 2, but, you know,
Well, they would dispatch through Mount Rogers.
yeah,
They
we
would
already have a crisis team and we would just,
utilize one of those.
Yes.
Thank you.
we're ready to go when you guys are, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
I appreciate the info. Thank you.
Okay, our next presenter is Kathy Cole, Emergency Relief Fund of Grayson.
I will say this is my beginning 4th year on the board of Mount Rogers. And they work hard, they're good stewards of every dollar they have, and I would really like to see us kick in as much as you can. Thank you. As I was told, mine are ready. As you will see, my handout is actually a request letter, which I could have just sent to you. The reason I wanted to come in person was some of you weren't here at the beginning of the pandemic and may not know about the Emergency Relief Fund. And it's such a small, almost invisible thing. I just wanted to be sure you were all aware of it. The county did this in the beginning of the pandemic when our new emergency coordinator, Paul Hoyle, was seeing needs that couldn't be met in time, urgent needs. And as you know, for some of our agencies, there's a lot of paperwork and waiting time, and sometimes people didn't meet the eligibility. He said, we need to be able to meet emergent needs quickly. So the county set up this fund and incorporated it as a nonprofit in 2000. It was originally composed of, the board was county people. Mitch, Lisa, several other people from the county, Paul, of course. And Paul met a few needs, but he also got very, very well versed in what other resources were out there. So he never does that unless he's sure these people can't get their needs met some other way, through social services or something else. This past year, the county wanted to shift that nonprofit to a citizen board. So we now have a citizen board. Mary Nell McPherson is the president. I'm the secretary. Other members are Ricky Anderson, Danny Nettleton, and then Paul and Lisa are ex officio members because, of course, they are county employees. But Lisa handles the money totally separate from county money. And Paul disperses the funds when he sees a need, and he works with us to verify that it's okay for him to do that. It's not county money, it's all donations. Every penny we've had has been donated by citizens. And in the beginning, a lot of that was the stimulus checks that were sent out. And now we're going to put out another call now that people are getting tax refunds. This would be a great thing to do with your tax refund. Put it out there to help your fellow citizens. As you can see in the next to last paragraph, we've had $67.90 donated and only dispersed $788. So we haven't used a lot of it. That's partly because we haven't had a major weather crisis here. If we had one, it could deplete those funds pretty quickly. In addition to that, we've had to pay a few hundred to an attorney to get incorporated and renew that every year. So I personally think that's a very simple process. We need to find an attorney who will do that gratis for us. rather than having to use our donated funds to pay an attorney to do that. So we're working on that. Our ask of the county is $1,000. And we don't need it right now, but it's sort of, we want to be in the budget. We want to be in your mind. We want you to remember we're there, appreciate what Paul is doing, and that we're doing everything we can to make sure citizens aren't falling through the cracks. An example of some of the things he's done is buying somebody propane when they had no heat and a very cold spell, and the fuel assistance was all depleted. A ride to the doctor. I think he bought a tank of gas for an out of area person who got stranded here. So things he can do right on the spot, usually very small amount, but it helps them over some hump. So that's what we're doing. We meet quarterly and review the records. Paul lets us know if he should get a big ask, he will have to have 2 people from the board to approve it before he can give it out. But basically, he's the one that knows about these because he's in touch with the emergency workers. I think too, he will disperse more as more people find out about this fund, more agencies know about it.
That's kind of my question about how does the word get spread? I mean,
he has talked to the major agencies. DSS is the biggest one in our county. But that's something our board could work on, is what other groups need to know about us and may know of people falling through the cracks. So we'll work on that. There's going to be a letter to the editor that Mary Nell is writing right now.
is there anything on the county webpage? Yeah, I don't recall seeing a banner. When the pandemic was going on, there was kind of a scrolling thing about the number to call if you needed help. But
Oh, that was when we had the emergency number up and running.
But I think that's gone. And so I wonder if there's something on our site that, or is that not appropriate?
Well, would that be appropriate now that we're a citizen?
Well, if you're asking for public funds.
Well, but Grayson Landcare asked for public funds, but you wouldn't put us on the banner. You know, I'm asking under the guise of you help nonprofits that you think are helpful to the county. So not asking you as if we are a piece of the county.
No, I'm not implying that at all. It was just to help in the messaging, helping you get the word out that this program exists. That's all I was saying.
We'll see if there's some way to incorporate that.
I'm not, if it was helpful, that's all.
Okay.
I just look, if you've got $6,790 and you only put out 788, it implies that maybe there's a messaging issue.
Yeah, I think there probably is.
So is this specific to county residents? Or?
Yes, it's only for Grayson County. Although, as we said, we had somebody in Grayson who was stranded, who I think lived somewhere else, and we helped him get home.
So now Rogers, who was just here, they see folks all the time that need help with light bills, groceries, gas, whatever. How would you access this if that?
Well,
who do we call?
If somebody needs groceries, we refer them to one of the food banks, and they will get people emergency groceries. We can call somebody who has a key, and they'll get them a box that day. We have other ways of meeting some of those needs. Light bills, we always go for the fund that Appalachian has until it runs out. I think it starts in January, and then it runs out at some point. So, this is something we use as a very last resort. But you're right, we should let other people be aware of it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first I've ever heard of this.
Yeah. New people, I was hoping Mr. Boyer would be here because I'm quite sure he doesn't know about it. But will he get this letter?
Was this organization birthed out of the pandemic? Is that what it was? So you want to keep moving with it?
Well, yeah, once the pandemic was over and we closed the hotline because it just wasn't being used anymore, Paul said, I think we still need an emergency fund. because there will be things that come up, not as often perhaps, but he was convinced that we still needed this. Lisa, anything you'd like to say? You've been involved right from the start with this.
So I'm assuming Paul's the point man,
Right, yes.
if you needed help.
Yes, he is. And we did work, it started administratively with social services, emergency management, and administration. There was this need that was recognized through social services that they couldn't help these people. None of their programs fit. So that's where the conversation started. Kathy did a great explanation of the history of how it became about. We are formed as a nonprofit. Right now, the money is in limbo, sort of, kind of, not really. It's housed within the county right now, ready to move over to the own bank account for the agency. So we can access it at any time. Right now, it's just through a county check. It's instead of a private check through the board.
So is there some type of vetting process you guys go
Yes.
through to make sure you're not just being abused?
Yes.
Paul is very good at that. He will talk to other people. He's had a couple of times he's turned people down because he found they were just scamming the system and going to everybody with a sob story. So he's pretty careful. Right. We do use the same criteria that social services uses for their emergency assistance.
So if this was birthed out of the pandemic and we could provide some additional funding for emergency relief through social services and let them, they already have all the systems in place for background checks, et cetera. Wouldn't that be a wiser thing, or is that?
The problem is they are not very timely. You know, their vetting process is going to take time. And the nature of emergency is people don't have time. They need something right now. So, but social services did work with us on this. Absolutely, yeah.
And even though they're called out, they're still they're basically have running office hours.
Right.
A lot of these emergency situations come up in the middle of the night.
Exactly.
I think it is a very worthy cause. And I thank you for all that you do, Kathy.
Thank you. And it's not used a lot. It's certainly not abused.
It wasn't.
And if you all turn this down, we'll keep plugging along. It was more just wanting you to have some kind of buy-in and a reminder that we're here doing this.
If I may give you a real world example of where a fund like this could come into place. It was after our February meeting or January meeting. I don't remember, but John came out to the house and we were talking after our meeting, and there was a woman wearing a short sleeve shirt, crying, homeless, walking in front of my house. And the only thing we could do was call the sheriff's department. They had nowhere to take her. And John and I decided if the sheriff's department would take her to the motel in town. She was sober. I mean, she probably made bad choices in life, but to take her to the local hotel and we'd swing by and pay the bill the next morning. The local hotel did that. And, I think that it's probably one of the more worthy causes when somebody's really down and out on their luck with nothing, that there is a fund that I don't think that $10,000 would ever be used out of the fund like that.
Thank you for that example. There was a homeless man living in Independence. I think it was about a year ago. And police were kindly taking him food and blankets and things. And Paul worked to get him what he needed and worked with some private donors as well as agencies to get him in an apartment and get him what he needed. And as I remember, none or very little of our funds were used for that. He was able to scare him up other places, but he took care of the guy and got him into shelter.
Like 2 or 3 nights of motel stay.
Yeah.
Was all that was used.
That we
this
paid.
fund.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you all very much.
We'll get, I think that's it for our presentations, and I'll make a little announcement too, that, again, budget work session will be held Thursday, March 2nd at 3 p.m. And with that, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Nice.
I'll take my motion.
Okay. Can the five of us talk about something that's not on the agenda that has come up that's part of our budget discussion with Randy and Chris? Can we talk about that?
As long as it's an open session,
We'll just add it to the agenda.
it would be related to the school budget, so.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we're talking about, is there an opportunity to bring a governor's school to this area for vocational education? There's not one that exists in the state that we know of. But is there an opportunity for
Specifically building trades.
specifically, well, I don't talk about being specific, but I mean, all of your vocational trades.
I mean, that's fair.
And, I don't know, I wanted to pitch that something that we talked about.
We had floated the idea with those two, and they were gonna talk to the school board other members about, because Mr. Wilmore was talking about the need for expanding it in Independence Elementary. And our discussion was really about, let's get down the road a little bit further and envision about, what are the needs of education, not necessarily from an infrastructure standpoint, but from a educational capability standpoint. Is that fair?
Yeah, and the governor's school is, the closest one's in Bland, although I think they're talking about.
Well, there's one
moving
down
on
on
to Whitfield.
Yeah, the one from Pulaski.
Yeah,
So Pulaski, we're talking about moving it.
but they're not now. They voted the other
But
day.
we could have an opportunity to be the leading point of the spear for specifically governor's school stuff that Southwest rural Virginia needs. We've got an option for math and science, but there could be something that leads right into the WCC pipeline.
So the vocational governor's school.
But basing it off of, vocational education.
So, for example, I think there's a Gulf school in east side, Tidewater area that does arts and music, that kind of stuff. A lot of them focus on STEM, but from a engineering and math and science standpoint. We're not aware of one that focuses on the vocational side, but it might be an opportunity to bring some additional resources, innovation, high-tech stuff that we were talking about with Baywood. But the concept would be, because it's a challenge for kids in this area to go to any gov school, regardless of what it is, purely based on logistics. And so if we might have an opportunity here to kind of develop a concept and a pilot program that would do it here, and then people come here. Instead of the kids come here instead of go somewhere else. Anyway.
Just wanted to throw that out there. We're all together. I don't know if there is an action item or a next step, but just something that we talked about that I thought was pretty unique that would kind of set Grayson County apart from the rest of the Commonwealth.
I spoke to Chris Sanders after our little meeting, and he said, I asked him, what's the next step? And he said, well, let me talk to the other board members and we'll get back together and move it along. So that's kind of where it's at. But they like the concept, and they see the opportunity. So we'll see.
Well, the housing crisis is gonna be right into.
Yeah.
To something like that.
Well, the diesel guy, the welder, all this stuff, plumbers.
Our trip to Richmond, VDHCD,
MOUSA.
Yeah. There's a lot of funding opportunities there if we can be creative, really trying to solve what our rural opportunities are. And so that was just something, and then I'll be quiet. Second.
Okay, motion to see for adjournment. Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Chair also aye.
Thank y'all.
Yep, thanks.
So maybe Friday, looks like.
Oh, yeah, I emailed them.
Yeah, you did, I saw.
Yeah, I gotta be double check. I'll have to work this.
Thank you.